with you again this year, and let's begin. He pushed on my abdomen with something flat. It was diamond-shaped. He pushed over my ovaries, and it burned. He said, "That will be all." I asked the purpose, and he says, "It is not for you to know. You are part of the whole." I felt some fear. He makes me know that he has seen me for a long time. Anonymous. NASA estimates that there are 50 billion plus planets in our Milky Way galaxy, and 500 million plus are in the Goldilocks zone, meaning that some of them probably have Earth-like conditions and might possibly support life. Most of us in this audience today have done enough research on the topic of alien visitation to know that we are most likely being visited right now. We have photographic evidence. Here's the Belgium Triangle, and two photographs taken, one in McMinnville, Oregon in 1950, and the other in France in 1957. Identical photos, it seems, of a craft that is not of this earth. So, friend or foe, what is their assessment of our behavior? Because I sort of have an intuition that they might treat us in a manner in which we might treat each other, or lower forms of life on this planet. I think when they came down initially, they assessed our technological development. They wanted to know if we were friend or foe. They wanted to know what our technological capability would be. And they could possibly, in 1949, see the Viking rocket, which was used as a weapon, developed as a weapon. And then our Apollo 15 launch, for example, that was not used for warfare. They probably would make close approaches to find out if we're hostile. Would we shoot at them? And we know that back in the 1950s, we did have a shoot them down order. So they would have assessed us as being hostile to their presence. Another quote from an anonymous experiencer. They tell me that they are concerned about our military's hostility. If they were shot down, I would simply have vanished from the face of the earth. No one would have found me. They probably secured plant and animal life. We hear in the 1960s, the 1970s about a spacecraft landing, about little figures getting out and taking soil samples from gardens and fields. And chances are that they would also have collected specimens of animal species from Earth. That would be what we would do. That was part of our plan during the 50s if we discovered a planet that had life. And then our plan would have been to abduct intelligent beings. And we know that at least since the 1950s, Earthlings have reported that they have been abducted. Now, Bud Hopkins, the late Bud Hopkins, told me that he had hypnotized an individual who believed they had been abducted as far back as 1939. So, how do they perceive us? They say we are a very difficult race to deal with. We are like emotional shapeshifters, anonymous. They view us as having many contradictions, from finality of weapons of mass destruction to eternal hope from people like Mother Teresa. There is ambiguity in our behavior. There is a continuum of human behavior from despair to promise. So are we malevolent? Are we benevolent? Are we both? How do they perceive us? Let's look at the war deaths during the 20th century. During the First World War, 15 million Earthlings were killed. Under Stalin's regime in the Soviet Union, 20 million lost their lives. During the Second World War, 66 million people lost their lives. In the People's Republic of China, during the reign of Mao Zedong, we lost 40 million Earthlings. In all the major wars during the 20th century on Earth, we lost 194 million, or 550,000 Earthlings. What kind of impression does that give our visitors? And yet, we have made life-sustaining advances. We have eradicated smallpox from the face of the earth. We've made advances against cancer. We have a better understanding of the mentally ill and treatment for the mentally ill. We have inoculation for the prevention of childhood diseases. Through the internet, we have the access of information, and we have a new and developing tolerance of multiculturalism. And yet, 21,000 children die each day from hunger and hunger-related causes. That is 14 children every minute. 7.6 million children die every year. We lost 76 million children between the years 2000 and 2010. That's a staggering figure. But we care for each other. And we also care for animals. But sometimes we have a failure of conscience among species that we consider inferior to ourselves. So what is the alien agenda? And we asked what were the most common ET types that they encountered. We have our little gray, the one who is about 3 to 3.5 feet tall. The taller one, who is about 4.5 to 5.5 feet tall generally. The little hybrid. The praying mantis type of being. And the reptilian. Those were the most commonly reported types. We did receive responses about a number of other types, from the blues to the see-throughs to the Nordics as well. So 75% said that they had contact with the small grays, or zetas, as we might call them. And you might be familiar with them. Small, grayish skin. Some say that it's bumpy, leathery. Some are dressed in black, tight-fitting uniforms. Others are not dressed in any kind of uniform. And some are seen wearing hoods and capes.